Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am back with another video. In this video we are going to be looking at the topic that says the coming of democracy to South Africa and coming to terms with the past. We are going to focus on the negotiated settlement and the government of national unity, which is the essay question for History Grade 12 paper 2. Alright, so this essay is very long, which means that this video is going to be very long as well. So please watch it till the end. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your fellow classmates. Thank you. Alright. So in this essay, these are the things that you're supposed to cover or talk about in the coming of democracy or the government of national unity and negotiated settlement. You need to first talk about the reforms introduced by de Klerk and the release of Nelson Mandela. You need to talk about the talks in preparation for the negotiations, the Khrushchev minute, the Khrushchev as well as the Pretoria minute. You need to talk about the negotiations, which is CODESA 1, CODESA 2, Malta Negotiation Forum. We need to talk about the conflict or the ongoing violence, which is the Sebokeng massacre, the Boipatong, the Bisho, World Trade Center, the Shell House, as well as the Bophuthatswana massacre. We need to talk about the compromise that was made by the ANC, as well as the NP, which is the Record of Understanding, the Sunset Clause. And then you talk about the elections and the government of national unity. When you are here, just know that you have done justice in your essay, because when you are here, you're already towards the conclusion. All right. So all of these are supposed to be included in your essay, and your events should follow each other in the order in which they happened. You cannot just move from de Klerk's speech and then we are talking about record of understanding. Thereafter, you come back to CODESA. Thereafter, you come back to the conflict. Thereafter, here you are talking about the government of national unity and elections, voting. Then you come back and talk about the Khrushchev minute. No, you're going to lose marks. Your events should follow each other in the order in which they happen, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Not 7, 2, 1, 3, 8. Ne? Alright, I hope you understand. The events should follow one another. Alright, sharp. Alright, so here, these are the political organizations that you are going to come across a lot in this essay or in this topic. Yes, I am explaining this topic, but I'm also explaining to you the things that you're supposed to include in your essay as well. Alright, so the first one is the ANC. You know this one, African National Congress, that was banned between 1960 till 1990. We have the APLA, which is Azanian People's Liberation Army, armed wing of the PAC, which means they worked with the PAC. We have AWB, which was an Afrikaner organization. In the exam, if you want to speak about the AWB, you do not have to worry yourself about this spelling, okay? You can just say AWB and leave it there. You will get your full marks. And then we have AZAPO, which is Azanian People's Organization. We have CP, which is the Conservative Party, which are right-wing Africans who split from the NP, National Party. Then we have the IFP, Inkatha Freedom Party, a Zulu Nationalist Party. And then we have the NP, which is National Party, Afrikaner Political Party, in power since 1948. Alright? And then we have the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, you know this one. We have the SACP, South African Communist Party. We have the Tripartite Alliance. Tri from tri means three. Tripartite Alliance organizations that came together. How many were they? There were three. It's the ANC, CACP, and COSATU to form the Tripartite Alliance. Alright? Okay. So you must know that the coming of democracy, for South Africa to get this democracy that we still live in today, it was not an easy process. Okay? So between 1989 and 1994, the political structure of South Africa changed fundamentally. In 1989, the National Party was in power and black people did not have the right to vote. You already know this. You already know the challenges that were faced by black people during apartheid or under the National Party government. Alright? But through 4 years of lengthy negotiations and compromise, a settlement was reached. In 1948, the 46-year rule of the National Party came to an end when the ANC won the majority in the first democratic elections in South Africa. And then South Africa became a democratic country. You are supposed to be country there, alright? But I'm sure you get it. You must know that this democracy that you live in today, that allows you to have these freedoms and all of these rights, was achieved through lengthy negotiations. Alright, so this is just background knowledge. And then this is the beginning of negotiations. This can also form part of what? Of your background. Alright, so the beginning of negotiations, this is how it started. By 1989, the apartheid government was experiencing increasing pressure from internal mass resistance as well as pressure caused by internal isolation and sanction, meaning that the apartheid government was facing a crisis from who? From the internal resistance from black people and other people of color who were oppressed by the apartheid regime. So the ANC government was facing, so the apartheid government or the National Party government was facing this crisis, this pressure from internal mass resistance as well as international isolations and sanctions. So when we speak of these international isolation and sanctions, we speak about other countries that were in support or that were on the side of the people who were oppressed. I hope that makes sense. So those countries began to do what? To isolate themselves because they are against what the apartheid government was doing to people, because the apartheid government violated people's rights. They violated human rights. Alright? I hope that makes sense. So other countries decided to do what? To isolate themselves and pose economic sanctions. When we speak of economic sanctions, we speak of how other countries can make a certain country to crumble economically. Let's say, for example, South Africa used to trade with other countries during the apartheid regime, with other international countries. Those international countries then decide that we are against what your government is doing to the people, and thereafter we are isolating ourselves and we are posing economic sanctions on your country. We are no longer going to trade with you. That has a way of doing what? Of having a severe disadvantage or impact on the economy of the country. So this is what they mean by saying that South Africa was facing a pressure from internal isolations and sanctions. Alright, and then as a result, even members of the National Party itself could see the need for change of policy. So this is why the members of the National Party decided we need to change a few things, because this internal mass resistance is not stopping. People are still fighting. Black people are still fighting for their freedom. On the other hand, international countries, big countries, are isolating themselves from us, and we are also suffering economically because of the sanctions that have been posed on us as the apartheid government. I hope that makes sense. Alright, so President P.W. Botha, who was the president during this apartheid period, he was the president, so he stepped down and then he was replaced by President F.W. de Klerk, who realized that there was an urgent need for a different approach, who realized that there has to be change, okay? So during 1980s, resistance in South Africa continued. It was clear that even though the ANC remained banned in South Africa, some white people had begun to accept that it had a crucial role to play in determining South Africa's future, meaning that since ANC was banned, remember ANC was banned after Sharpeville of 1960? It was banned, sent to exile for 30 years. So white people or people in white government realized that the ANC is very, very important in this struggle. As a result, they began to send some of their members, white members, to Zambia, in Lusaka in Zambia, to meet some of the ANC members, including Oliver Tambo, resulting to the beginning of secret negotiations with the ANC in exile. They're referred to as secret negotiations because, guys, we were not there, right? We are not there. We don't know what is it that was spoken between the ANCs in exile and the white people from South Africa who went to Lusaka to see or have these secret negotiations with the ANCs in exile. Okay? So this is the beginning of it all. This is one of the reforms that were introduced by who? By F.W. de Klerk to change this crisis or this situation that South Africa was facing. In 1982, the government moved Mandela, who had been sentenced to life imprisonment from Robben Island, to a prison on the mainland, Victor Verster Prison at Paarl. And from 1985, members of the government, P.W. Botha and F.W. de Klerk, held secret talks with Mandela. Alright, this one you know it. You know Mandela was sent to Robben Island to be sentenced life imprisonment, and then he ended up serving 27 years. So when these negotiations started, he was released from Robben Island, and you know that Robben Island, it was a prison that was situated in the middle of the ocean, yes, which makes it difficult for you to escape or difficult for you to have visitors at all. So as a way of loosening up from the white people or from the white government, they released Mandela from Robben Island and then placed him in another mainland prison, meaning that a prison that is on land. Okay, and then between Mandela, P.W. Botha, the former president, as well as F.W. de Klerk, they had secret talks with Mandela. We did not know what was spoken about in those secret talks, but yes, that's what you should know. So this forms what part of a good background. Alright, before I proceed, maybe you don't know about this essay. This essay is very long, but here is the trick. In this essay, you must always show or tell us about the role played by the ANC and the role played by the National Party government into bringing about democracy or into achieving democracy. Okay, you can't go to this to the exam and then in this essay you go and talk about the works of the ANC only. You will lose marks. Vice versa, you need to tell us the things that were done by the ANC as well as the things that were done by the National Party and other organizations, but mainly the ANC and the National Party. What role was played by each side into bringing about the very same democracy that we live in today and so enjoy. Alright, moving on. We are done with the background now. The first body, which is our subtopic, is the start of negotiations, meaning that the negotiations now are doing what? The negotiations are starting when? In 1990. So the first thing that you need to talk about is F.W. de Klerk's speech. Okay, as you can see, there is a timeline, good people, in this essay. Timeline is very important, okay? F.W. de Klerk's speech happened in February 1990. On the 2nd of February 1990, F.W. de Klerk addressed the parliament indicating that he will unban organizations such as the ANC, PAC, and SACP. Okay? He also stated that he will allow the exiles to return and release political prisoners, including Nelson Mandela. The statement shocked a lot of white people in parliament. On the 11th of February, Nelson Mandela was indeed released from Victor Verster Prison in Cape Town after 27 years in prison. 50 other political activists were released in Robben Island, and by 1991, 933 prisoners had been released, although the process was very slow. So, good people, this is reason number 1, as you can see, which means that this is the first thing that you need to talk about in your body or in your essay. F.W. de Klerk's speech, okay? You have everything here. Simple and straightforward. Alright, let's move on. We have the Sebokeng massacre. The Sebokeng massacre of 1990. You know, a massacre is whereby a number of people are being killed. Okay? So the first round of negotiations between the two sides. Which two sides are they talking about here? The ANC as well as the National Party. So the first round of negotiations was planned to take place on April 1990, but these negotiations were called off, which means that they were cancelled by the ANC when a number of residents in the township of Sebokeng were killed in clashes with the police. That is why it is referred to as the Sebokeng massacre. Okay, so the government was forced to compromise so that negotiations could go ahead. Which government? The National Party government. They made a compromise to whom? To the ANC, because one of the ANC's members were killed in the clash between the police at Sebokeng. Hence, it is referred to as what? As the Sebokeng massacre. Alright? So, the National Party government made a compromise by having a judicial commission under Judge Goldstone. They appointed Judge Goldstone to investigate the Sebokeng killings, and they also provided or gave ANC members a temporary indemnity. It's like an indemnity form, okay, but a temporary one that allows them to participate in these talks, even though they are they are criminals, or not really criminals, but even though they are facing crimes or they have criminal charges. I hope that makes sense. So you, as a person who is discussing in this essay, you need to tell us that despite this event of the Shuffle massacre, this did not stop what? The ANC and the NP in doing what? In continuing their negotiations, thus achieving democracy. Okay, but that will depend on the question that you have in the exam. Let's move on. Let's move on to the start of negotiations. Okay, this is point number 3, which is the Grootschum Minute, May 1990. You need to talk about it. Anything that is numbered, good people, it means you need to talk about it. Alright? So in May 1990, the two sides met at Grootschum, the president's residence in Cape Town, and discussed the obstacles to negotiations and ways of overcoming these obstacles. They talked about troops. So in the Grootschum meeting, this is what the ANC and the National Party spoke about. They talk about what? Troops in townships. What did the troops in townships do? What do you think those troops did? They were there to protect black people? No. So the ANC spoke about them to remove those troops from townships so that they can stop violating black people, we can say that. And then they also spoke about what? The state of emergency. The state of emergency is whereby the police force or the security force is given the right to just fire. Okay? That is what a state of emergency. Just like what happened there at the Shuffle massacre. Those people who were protesting there, they were unarmed. Most of them, they were shot whilst they were running. That is because the apartheid police or the policemen, they were given what? The state, they were given the right to declare a state of emergency, to just fire at people. I hope that makes sense. Meaning that the ANC brought the state of emergency issue into light in these discussions, in these negotiations, that you have to put an end to this state of negotiations. And then they also spoke about the ongoing violence. This one is self-explanatory. They talk about political prisoners. Some politicians were still arrested because they were actively resisting or part of liberation movement. So they spoke about them, that they have to be what? They have to be released. And then the National Party obviously spoke about what? The armed struggle. Armed struggle, we are talking about the group of people who were challenging the apartheid regime. Group of people of color or black people who were challenging the apartheid regime and killing the police as well. Alright, and then the economic sanctions, we spoke about them. So South Africa was facing heavy economic sanctions because of the atrocities that they were doing, because of the human rights violations that they were doing. So other countries isolated themselves and imposed economic sanctions. So in this meeting of Grootschum, these are the things that they spoke about. Remember, I told you at the beginning, in this essay, you are supposed to show the roles played by what? Both the ANC as well as the National Party. Alright, now let's move on. At the end of the 3-day meeting at the Grootschum, both sides agreed on common issues, and then they were committed to continue the talks. Meaning that in this meeting, it went well, but nothing was resolved. We can say that they just agreed on common issues. There were no actions that were done. Moving on to the fourth one, which is the Pretoria Minute, which is another meeting or start of negotiations that was held in August 1990. You can see this one. The first one was held in May, if I'm not mistaken. This one is August 1990. So the two sides met again in Pretoria in 1990. At this meeting, the ANC agreed to suspend the armed struggle. You remember, they spoke about the armed struggle in the Khrushchev. So when they met again in the Pretoria Minute in August 1990, the ANC agreed to suspend the armed struggle. In return, the National Party government agreed to lift or suspend the state of emergency. Alright, now let's move on. There were still differences between the ANC and the National Party government. This was about the process of drawing up a new constitution, which means that there were differences between these two groups, the ANC and the National Party. But did those differences stop these two groups from working together, continuing with the negotiations and bringing about democracy? No. Okay, so these are the differences that occurred. The ANC wanted majority rule under the new democratic constitution because obviously black people were what? Formed a majority. So if black people vote, black people are going to get what? The majority vote, and they can get what? The majority rule. That is what the ANC wanted. But the National Party did not want it. The National Party did not want that. The National Party wanted some form of power sharing to protect white economic power and interest. They were concerned that if minorities, if white majority is taken into account, or white they were afraid that, or concerned that, if the majority rule is accepted, white rights or the rights of minorities are not going to be protected because now majority rules. All right, let's move on. But yes, Pretoria Minute, you need to talk about it in your essay. And then we have the talks begins. The talks begin, CODESA. We were dealing with negotiations previously. People are negotiating. You saw that. Some are saying, suspend this, put an end to this, I will put an end to that. That is negotiating. Now we move on to the talks. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the CODESA one, which happened in December 1990. Okay? So in December 1991, nearly 2 years after the unbanning of the ANC and the release of Nelson Mandela, the talks between the government and the liberation movements finally began. So these two groups are now talking. Okay, so this talk, it was referred to as the Convention for a Democratic South Africa, meaning CODESA. You need to know the name of CODESA in full and use it accordingly in your essay. CODESA means Convention for a Democratic South Africa, where nearly 300 delegates met at the World Trade Center in Kempton Park. It was a multi-party conference. That is why it is referred to as the Convention for a Democratic South Africa. Convention whereby people come together. It was a multi-party, meaning that there were a lot of parties. Okay, it was a multi-party conference of which 19 different groups were presented or represented. However, the Conservative Party, remember we said it was a party for white people who had broken away from which party? From the National Party, because they did not agree with the changes that were being introduced by F.W. de Klerk. Alright, so however, the Conservative Party, the PAC and AZAPO boycotted the talks, meaning that they were against the talks, hoping this would wreck the negotiations. PAC and AZAPO, they also boycotted the court because the talks or the negotiations, simply because maybe they didn't want to reconcile or work with white people. Alright, so that is why they tried to boycott those talks. Alright, so this is the first talks of talks. It's number 5. It is written in bold. You have to talk about it. Okay. CODESA 1 continues. The CODESA talks reached a compromise about drawing up a new constitution in a two-stage process, meaning in these CODESA talks, but all those people or all those multi-parties agreed that we needed what? A new constitution. Okay? So this constitution, it came in two stages. A multi-party conference will draw up an interim constitution, which means people from different parties are going to come together and draw up a new constitution of South Africa. Alright? And the first elected parliament would use this as a basis for drafting the final constitution. And this constitution was going to be used in the parliament. The very same constitution that we use today. A constitution is a book of law. Alright? Those rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, the ones that protect you from gross human rights violations, they were drafted here in this period, in 1990, through CODESA, Talks of Talks. Okay? Most of the participants of CODESA also signed a declaration of intent, meaning that these members from these multi-party organizations, they signed the declaration that we are going to work together. Okay? They declared. We are going to work together towards bringing what this democracy that we are talking about. Okay. And then in this multi-party, they elected working groups to continue discussions on. Remember, we said it was a multi-party. There are a lot of people. So they elected different groups that this group, you're going to work on this group, you're going to work on this and that. So one group worked on the principles of a new constitution, which means that one group was working on drafting the new principles of a new constitution. The other one worked on the arrangements for an interim government to rule the country until elections to be held. And then there was a timeline that was introduced of these changes as to these changes going to be done during this specific period or for this length. Okay? But the IFP, Inkatha Freedom Party, did not sign the declaration of intent as their proposal of including their King Goodwill Zwelithini in the negotiations was turned down. The key members of the negotiations was the ANC and the IFP. So the key members of these negotiations was the ANC and the National Party. So the IFP was not happy with the fact that they have been excluded in these negotiations. So they did not sign the declaration of intent and they did not commit themselves in the multi-party organizations or in CODESA. Hope that makes sense. Now let's move on to another event that is important that you need to talk about, which is the whites-only referendum which happened in March 1992. The Conservative Party of white voters had been critical right from the beginning of the changes introduced by de Klerk. We did say that, you know this by now. Many were opposing the removal of apartheid laws during 1990 and 1991, meaning that these whites were enjoying. Alright. Many were opposing the removal of apartheid laws during 1990-1991. The opening of CODESA talks in December confirmed that the views that the National Party was about to sell to white interests. In 1992, Conservative Party captured a seat normally held by the National Party, meaning that the Conservative Party was now on the quest or trying to replace the National Party, because they feel like National Party ibajikela or something like that. And then the de Klerk decided to call a referendum for white voters. Many whites were influenced by the positive changes. Sanctions were lifted, meaning that since this white referendum or the whites-only referendum, we can say that it was sort of a meeting that was called by de Klerk that included only white people. And in that meeting, he influenced them, convinced them that since we have introduced these changes, our country is improving, our economy is improving, sanctions are now lifted, international countries are no longer isolating themselves from us. Okay, so white people from the Conservative Party bought into this, meaning that they were influenced, and they gave de Klerk a green light, meaning that the rights to proceed with the negotiations without trying to overthrow him or form their own National Party 2.1. Alright. Now let us move on to CODESA 2. CODESA 2 that happened in May 1991. In May 1991, another multi-party negotiations, CODESA 2, was held at World Trade Center. CODESA 2, World Trade Center, we can say that it was a venue in Kempton Park. So the CODESA 2 meeting was held there. And then during this time, the dispute was over majority rule or majority vote to take decisions. Obviously, since the ANC formed majority, they wanted to take the decision. National Party was not going to agree to that because they felt like them as a minority, their rights are not going to be protected and stuff. So the National Party wanted decisions to be taken by 75% of majority, whereas ANC wanted 70% majority vote. The only agreement that was reached in this CODESA was that the SABC will be unbiased when broadcasting news, meaning that they will not be one-sided, but broadcast news that are valid, fair, and accurate. Once again, the multi-party negotiations CODESA failed to find breakthrough to a democratically elected government. We had CODESA 1, which failed, and then this is CODESA 2, which failed as well. You see? But did this stop both the ANC and the NP in reaching an agreement and bringing about democracy? No, it didn't. That is why in this essay you are supposed to highlight the different roles played by the ANC as well as the National Party. Alright, let's move on. So, when these negotiations were taking place, there was ongoing violence. The very same ongoing violence that was spoken about or that was discussed in the Khrushchev meeting. So while negotiations were busy continuing on June 1992, violence broke out between ANC and IFP supporters in Boipatong Township. This led to the killing of 49 people, most which were ANC members who were attending a funeral. They were killed by Inkatha supporters helped by the police, by the apartheid police or white police or National Party police. Some argued that the government was stirring up conflicts through its use of a third force in support of Inkatha in order to deliberately derail the negotiations. Others argued that the conflict resulted from Inkatha being excluded from a major role in negotiations which were dominated by the ANC. The ANC broke off from CODESA and negotiations collapsed. The ANC, SACP and COSATU launched a campaign of rolling mass action that consisted of general strikes by millions of workers, followed by mass demonstrations around the country. Another massacre took place in Bisho, where soldiers fired on protesters, killing a number of people, unarmed and injuring 200 more. So there was violence here. This violence happened at Boipatong. The clash was between whom? The ANC as well as the IFP members. And obviously, since there is clash, people are going to die. And then there is the Bisho massacre, which resulted to what? People killing, soldiers killing what? The protesters. Okay? White soldiers or apartheid soldiers killing what? The protesters. So this was the challenges or ongoing violence that was going on. But despite this ongoing violence, both parties were able to do us reach an agreement or negotiate, and we got democracy. Moving on to the next one, which is the Record of Understanding of 26 September 1992. On 26 September 1992, Cyril Ramaphosa representing ANC and Rolf Meyer representing National Party held a secret meeting in which they signed an agreement called the Record of Understanding. So the participants agreed, meaning that Ramaphosa of the ANC and Meyer of the NP agreed that Zulu hostels would be fenced to prevent further violence by banning the carrying and displaying of traditional weapons such as spears, axes, nokeries by Inkatha members. This is what the ANC member as well as the NP member came to this was their solution, and it is referred to as the Record of Understanding, to stop the violence that was being perpetuated by the Inkatha supporters, simply because their king, Goodwill Zwelithini, was not included in the negotiations. Alright, and obviously this violence was stopping or derailing the negotiations, thus making it a slow pace for South Africa to do what? To reach that democracy, or reach those negotiations, making them a success and attaining that democracy. Alright. And then in that very same Record of Understanding, it was agreed that more political prisoners were going to be released. So the name CODESA, which had failed several times, twice, replaced with a new one called Multi-Party Negotiating Forum. Because CODESA failed twice, it was replaced with Multi-Party Negotiating Forum. And Joe Slovo, the leader of Communist Party, came up with a clause called the Sunset Clause. According to the clause, the Government of National Unity will be established after elections. Alright? All parties would obtain 5% or more would be part of their Government of National Unity, meaning that when people are voting, if the ANC obtains more than 5%, if the National Party obtains more than 5%, they are going to be included and form the Government of National Unity, whereby you have different parties governing the country, just like right now we do have the Government of National Unity in our country. So the Sunset Clause was aimed to convince the white people to accept the majority vote. That yes, you must accept the majority vote, because at the end of the day you are going to be included as well, because this is a Government of National Unity. Hope that makes sense. Moving on to number 10, assassination of Chris Hani, which happened 10 April 1993. On 1 April, multi-party talks resumed at World Trade Center. While negotiations were in progress, Chris Hani was assassinated by a Polishman, Janusz Wallus, who was hired by a Conservative Party leader, Clive Lewis, on 10 April 1993. This incident also almost plunged South Africa into a terrible civil war between the whites and blacks. You know what a civil war is? When people of the same country are fighting one another. Nonetheless, Nelson Mandela was able to contain black anger through his speech on television. The culprits were arrested and taken to jail. Angered by this arrest, the AWB and Afrikaner Volksfront stormed the World Trade Center on 25 June 1993 and destroyed the equipment that were used during the negotiations. However, Mandela and de Klerk were able to manage the situation and negotiations continued. You see what I'm talking about? Alright, let's move on, guys. Okay, we have ongoing violence again. The Battle of Bophuthatswana that happened on February 1994. There was violence because the civil servants of Bophuthatswana were on strike fighting to get their pensions. And then the AWB, so remember that Afrikaner group, the AWB that we spoke about on the second slide, yes, they decided to assist the Prime Minister with this strike, and when they arrived, they decided to do what? To release shots firing at black people on site, black people who were just protesting. So angered by this, the Bophuthatswana soldiers retaliated by firing at them and killed 2 AWB members. This is a good example of what? Of ongoing violence. We still continue on ongoing violence. We have the Shell House massacre, which happened on 28 March 1994. Violence broke out on 28 March 1994 when IFP supporters decided to march to the Shell House, which were the headquarters of the ANC. Approximately 20,000 to 30,000 IFP supporters armed with traditional weapons marched to Shell House in Johannesburg, resulting to a clash between the ANC and IFP. Shots were fired and some people were killed and some were injured. In order to restore peace, de Klerk, Nelson Mandela, and Buthelezi held a peace summit, but this summit failed because Buthelez's demand of postponement of election dates was rejected. You need to talk about the Shell House, that it didn't stop bringing about democracy. And then you are towards the end now. This paragraph, very, very important as well. The final road to democracy, where you are going to talk about the democratic elections which happened on 27 April 1974. This is how you can go about it, despite all these obstacles that we have just spoken about. On the 27th of April 1994, the first democratic elections were held in South Africa. These elections were administered by the Independent Electoral Commission (IEC), led by Justice. 19 political parties, including IFP, took part, and ANC emerged victorious, meaning that ANC won. That was the beginning of South Africa as a democratic country, the very same democracy that we still live in. Nelson Mandela was crowned the first democratically elected president. Thabo Mbeki and de Klerk became two deputy presidents of South Africa. This is how South Africa achieved its democracy. This is the road to democracy. So if you want to score good marks on this essay, guys, make sure that you discuss from number 1 to 13. This is number 13. Make sure that you talk about 1 up until you get to 13. You may not explain it just like I have explained it in this video, right? But as long as you understand what each event means or what happened in each event, then you are good to go. Make sure that each event is there. Make sure that you understand your question. Make sure that your essay addresses the question. I did say that this video is going to be long simply because this topic is long on its own and even the essay is long. So yeah, all the best on your paper 2 History grade 12. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.